Um, hey, I'm Legover of Agos. So this is going to be Okami new game any percent. I've got my commentator with me and friend Krino.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. And we're running a little bit late, so I think let's just get right into it. I think we can talk as we go. So timer starts in 3, 2, 1, go. So first thing to note is we are playing on the re-releases of the game that came out in around 2017. This is because they have cutscene skips, which, as you might imagine, saves quite a lot of time.
And one of the first you're gonna notice is that Lego is gonna be do a lot of jumping into cutscenes. This is in order to somewhat manipulate Ami's speed. As you can see, Ami has this modifier to her movement speed, where she gets this trail of grass behind her after dashing, after tackling. This is called the dash, and this gives her an increase in speed. You can normally get this after walking for about 4 seconds or immediately after tackling, and after being in this green dash, as we call it, for 5 seconds, you get gold dash, which gives you an even greater increase in speed. And now you're gonna see the first of our constellations to get a Celestial Brush power. The Celestial Brush is one of the core mechanics of the game, where by holding one of the bumpers, we can summon forth the Celestial Brush. The first brush power we get is Rejuvenation, which is you see something broken or missing parts, and you can fill it out and restore it. Here we use it to restore the river of the heavens so we can walk across. And as you can see, coming out of the water, the dash restore mechanic works not only by jumping in and out of cutscenes, it also works by jumping in and out of stuff like water. This works mostly as a way to make the game feel smoother when jumping, but we can abuse it by storing this mechanic by going, as I said, in and out of cutscenes. The only time you will ever see Lego having to tackle again in order to gain speed again is when entirely changing maps. For example, the first part of River of the Heavens and the second area are actually different maps, so Lego has to tackle again in order to gain speed again. Provided they don't miss a dash restore and lose speed entirely, they should only have to tackle to regain speed after changing maps. And now this is the Cave of Nagi, where Lego restores Nagi's sword to Kuyomi in order to get the constellation for Tachigami, the cutting god who gives us the power to cut things by drawing a straight line through them. This is going to be useful not only in the overworld, but also in some combat encounters. This is one of the more useful combat brush powers casually, but it will be replaced later. By the way, we just did a fight skip, and we are about to do another one. This is a very common theme in this game. Fight triggers are really just a tad smaller than they should be, and very often you can just walk around them.
Yeah, so right there, it kind of just looked like I ran a little bit to the left, but that was just to avoid, like, it probably saves like 30 seconds or something just to avoid a fight entirely. So luckily, nearly all fights that don't also have some kind of trigger with them that like we have to do are nearly all of them are skippable in some way. So one thing to mention is that we are playing as a wolf here, and we are playing specifically as the wolf goddess Amaterasu, who has the power to draw upon the world, right? So far we've gotten 2 powers, but the theme of this game is we're supposed to collect all our powers because we've lost them all. We were a statue for 100 years, and now we're going around trying to get them all back. A little bit of spoilers, we won't, in the speed run, actually be getting all of them back, but you would casually, so we'll be able to skip some things later.
Now, what Lego is about to do is something that the new game many percent world record route can actually skip, which is getting the power of sunrise. But they will be getting it for marathon safety. In order to trigger the sunrise sequence, LEGO needs to talk to 3 of the petrified citizens of Kamiki Village. So we pick up the fastest 3 members, and then we proceed to do one of my favorite tricks in this route, which is Uppy Thingy, because you get up on the thingy. It's a very good name, I will say. And like that, this saves around 8 seconds compared to walking around, and just like that, we get the power of sunrise. Now, this is our first fight in the game. LEGO makes very short work of these green imps by power slashing all of them twice. And you will have noticed, if you have sound on, that LEGO actually started borking at the end of the fight. This is for 2 reasons. The first one is that we have a bork button in this game, so obviously we will bork at every chance we get, because it's really, really cool to have a bork button, you know? And the other one is that mashing A at the end of fights during the result screen actually makes the result screen go away slightly faster. So it's not only really cool to bork, to have the ability to bork, it also saves time, which is even better. And now, that is very, very unfortunate.
I did not see that.
So I was about to comment on how good LEGO is at digging these turnips.
Yeah, no.
Fortunately, that didn't exactly do so great. But this is the turnip minigame. This is more relevant later. We are not gonna enjoy the effects of doing this right now, but this is gonna be required later. But there's no difference from doing it now and later. It's just more convenient for movement's sake. Now, LEGO is gonna go ahead and grab this chest, which will contain our first broken consumable of the game. This is a small exorcism stick, which does consider it. It's not a very big amount of damage, but it's a considerable amount of AoE damage. And right after that, we are running towards the boulder. This is the... Yeah, go ahead.
So what we just did with Boulder Skip there is our first example of a deboost, in this case a dialogue boost. So when dialogue ends, there's if you end it in the air, you get 1 frame where the game considers you on the ground, and while we actually can't jump on that frame, we can't do a tackle on that frame. And luckily ground tackles can be cancelled into jumps. So by doing this, we can cancel our ground tackle into a jump and get enough height to get all the way over that boulder. And that allows us to skip a lot of just extra running around that we would have had to do otherwise.
Another thing that might be worth mentioning there is that we are running the game in Japanese, and this is relevant mainly because the dialogue is a lot faster for some unskippable dialogue that we get, and in some scenarios it is faster to just read the text with the fast text button that Okami fortunately has, rather than skip the cutscene by a couple of frames. In that particular scenario, it actually makes the trick a lot easier, as you lose a lot less height while you wait for the dialogue to go away. And now, for our second fight of the run, we have what we call the campfire fight, where LEGO power slashes twice, then hits the red imps once each, and power slashes them again. And that went really cleanly. Now, we're just going to be running around Hana Valley for a bit, skipping a bit of cutscenes and pressing the fast text button a bit whenever it's faster. Now, you might be thinking that it doesn't save too much time, like it's down to frames difference between skipping and fast text. But, you know, it's an entire 13 seconds. That's a lot. Throughout the entirety of the run, I will say. Now, this is the Yellowing fight. This fight can be a bit annoying. It used to have a very heavy element of RNG back in the day because we didn't know how to fight it better, but thankfully there are threats to eliminate the RNG now, and even better, with this routing, having the small exorcism slip, it just dies by using the broken consumable. Now, one thing that is worth mentioning is that in this sunrise cutscene, for the world record route, we don't have sunrise, so you actually get the exact same cutscene, except the sun doesn't show up. It just shows up a shiny circle. That's because the sunrise rush power actually has two components. One is the story trigger sunrise rush power, and the other one is the actual make the sunrise in the game part. And the story component is one you don't actually have to unlock, so that is very, very convenient in terms of letting us skip it. Now, this is actually the second Susano QT in the game. We skipped the first one by doing boulder skip in Kameki Village, so it is the first one we see. But I will say Susano's QT music is one of my favorites in the game, so it's a bit unfortunate, even though they are really slow, as you can see. It's just a lot of unskippable text. And this is the ball, no. Which is one of the most annoying parts of the Okami speedrun in general. LEGO does a decent work here. It's very hard to actually keep control of the ball, so even if that looked maybe a bit slow by losing control for a bit, it was still a very, very solid job. And now, after pushing the ball, this sunrise will give us the third brush power, which is Bloom, and it's gonna be really, really relevant.
Yep, so getting the power of Bloom, we now have the power to Bloom Guardian Saplings, like I just did right there. And then we also have two other powers. One is one the game actually doesn't directly have a tutorial for, which is the power of drawing trees, which is not that useful, at least at first glance. And the other one is to draw, to restore curse patches like this one here. Now, we aren't going to be restoring this curse patch, but we will be restoring them later. And actually, every single part of the Bloom power ends up being useful to the speedrun. So, pretty cool stuff. Also, on the way back, there were two fights that we were supposed to do, and we skipped both of them. They were supposed to be refights of the campfire fight and the yellow imp fight, but by jumping around the yellow imp fight, we can just get all the way around it by just basically going over the trigger, and there's a big enough gap where we can get all the way to the other side by doing it that way. And so now... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, Hana Valley was the first cursed area we purified by using the power of Bloom and blooming a garden sapling. Shinshu is the first area overtaken by the black caviar that we free. And this is going to be something we do in a lot of areas in the game. We are going to be blooming the guardian saplings in order to be able to actually traverse the areas and continue the game. And here in Shinshu Village, we have one really important chore to do, which is get a very cool brush power. But in order to get that brush power, we need it to be night. So we are going to visit Mika, who is going to give us the demon hunting side quest. We're not actually going to do any of the side quests, but it's very convenient because the side quest requires it to be night. So it turns it night for us, which we want it to be in order to get the brush power we want. Now, there's a small element of RNG in this fight. There can actually be one of 5 named monsters here. And it's relevant to be able to identify the names because we do need to cross out the name.
Yeah, so we don't actually have to learn Japanese in order to read the correct name. You can, but I just have a certain symbol that I recognize for each name as the one I need to cross out.
Yeah, we are now swimming to Tama's house. On the way to Tama's house, we have our first dead fish of the game, which are some somewhat annoying enemies that will thankfully just die to 3 power slashes pretty quickly.
Yeah. Luckily, power slash is going to be our best friend in fights for right now, but power slash is somehow not actually the most broken ability for fights. Instead, that is going to be what I'm getting right now. This is Cherry Bomb. So we have bombs in this game. It's very important that we're able to draw bombs onto the world. The gods knew what they were doing. So now we have that. So these are going to be extremely useful in fights, as they do a lot of damage. And they also have a secret other benefit that we'll see later as well. I'm also just picking up some treasure here. And this treasure is just to patch up any money holes that we might have, because we do need money in this route. Well, actually, most of the money we'll be able to get through the required fights that we have to do. But in the early game, there is the possibility we will potentially be needing some extra money. So I'll be picking up some extra treasures on the way.
Yeah, something that is interesting about the way money you get from fights is in this work is that you get two instances of money. One is the money you actually grab from drops, and then the game rates you on how much damage you took during the fight and how long you took. And depending on that, it can either go from giving you no extra money up to doubling the money you grabbed from the drops. So sometimes when on a big money fight, we take damage accidentally, that can harm our prospects from getting enough money for the point we want. Now, we have just entered Agata Forest, which we will very quickly bloom. Thankfully, the Guardian Sapling for Agata Forest is here really quickly and just requires a Cherry Bomb, and it is now bloomed and purified. Now, right after this, we are gonna see the first brush adventure of the game. This is gonna be to skip the first Waka fight. And what are brush adventures? Brush adventures are a general technique where we break away the brush camera from Amaterasu in order to just move it around elsewhere and use that to our convenience. This is useful for a lot of reasons, mostly being able to brush very far away, and in this case and many other cases, to use triggers that come from brushing to warp away, because things like curse patches will almost always, unless I'm missing something, teleport Ami to the cursed patch for the cutscene that comes after it is purified. And right now, LEGO is beginning to set up for a blue skip, one of the hardest and most relevant, route-defining tricks to the route. Now, this is a very hard trick that only has one shot. We do have an alternate route in case it goes wrong for marathon safety, but we are definitely hoping it goes well. This is one of the glitchiest tricks of the run. It requires overlapping several cutscenes in order to get cutscene storage, and a very, very interesting brush adventure. Now, what we're doing is power slashing the torch there and putting the cabbage over where the torch will respawn, hoping that after a certain amount of time, when the torch does respawn, it will push the cabbage towards a trigger that will start a sequence of cutscenes. And we want to, on the same frame as the cutscene starts, bloom a cursed patch so that the cutscenes happen at the same time and we get cutscene storage.
Very nice, we got it. All right.
That is very, very cool. So you will notice that LEGO talked to Isun there. That is in order to make sure that the curse patch actually comes out on the exact same frame as the torch respawns. Because the torch won't respawn until the dialogue is over. And yes, nice work, LEGO. Big claps. Now, Ami is actually unable to move because of the weird cutscene storage state. So LEGO uses Bloom power, which makes the rabbits walk towards them, and then they can feed the rabbits in order to have another cutscene to break out of the weird state. However, we still have a cutscene queued. So since there's a cutscene in the queue, some types of cutscenes can play. Fortunately, the cutscene that washes Ami away in the river and makes you die is unable to play because of this weird cutscene storage state. So we're able to just swim across the Agata River and completely, well, not completely, but for now, skip the Tsuta ruins and all of the first fishing minigame and a lot of things, really. And now we are in Taka Pass. Here we will be doing the first shopping trip of the game, where Lego will be buying 4 meat feedbacks, and I believe an exorcism slip.
Nope. Three steel fish sake.
3 only 3 steel fish sake. Okay.
So I mentioned earlier that bombs have a bit of a hidden bonus to make them way better, because on the surface they actually do about the same amount of damage as a power slash, making them about equal and a lot harder to actually use in battle. But the secret bonus is that, unlike power slash, bombs are affected by steel fish sake, which is meant to really only affect your base attacks, and it does a lot of damage. So this is a sort of a like mini boss of the game that we just wipe out with 4 steel fish sake boosted cherry bombs. Steel fish sake doubles your attack power normally, which is a huge boost compared to a lot of other games, what they allow you to boost with items. And because it affects cherry bombs, which on their own already do a lot of damage, we're able to just wipe out that boss in like 10 seconds or something. It's
also
ridiculous.
Huge shout out to the devs. They really made sure that the game was realistic. As you can see, Waka is a human enemy, and just like in real life, as a human enemy, Waka is really vulnerable to explosives.
Yes, especially ones that have alcohol poured on them.
Yes. Yeah, also alcohol, really volatile, flammable substance, makes bombs blow up bigger. Now, the Waka fight is actually a hard requirement in this area. It is impossible to skip. For some reason, well, obviously to force you to actually fight Waka, the game checks that Waka has been fought before it lets you bloom this Guardian Sapling. It's not a big deal, and it's actually a net positive for Yen anyway, which is good for this route, so we don't really mind fighting it. Now, we are gonna be doing the first part of a side quest. This side quest is a surprise tool that will help us later. We're gonna be doing this mole minigame where you have to chase after the blue mole. The way this minigame works is, it's not too complex, but it takes a while to properly explain all of the details. But I will say it is consistent. There's no RNG here other than where the moles decide to go. Like, it's not actually RNG. You can actually tell where the blue mole is going to go. And after tackling the blue mole 3 times, we get the teacup, which we give to the tea master, who will give us a mushroom in exchange. And again, the mushroom is a surprise tool that will help us later. Now, this is just the first of our errands list that isn't really long. We only have 2 errands to run right now in Taka Pass. Before heading to the next area, we are going to be doing Devil Gate, which is the first Devil Gate we will fight in the run.
Yes.
And Devil Gates will be relevant because, well, the Devil Gates that we will do, other than some very special cases, are gonna be useful to unlock fast travel points in the world map. There is gonna be a fast travel system that is very useful, and it's actually a hard requirement in order to complete this route, because otherwise we cannot escape some places because of the way we enter them. So yeah, this Devil Gate has the first boat ogre we see, which is an enemy that is supposed to be introduced into the ruins. It has a big cutscene and everything to introduce the enemy, but we did skip that fight anyway, so it just shows up here with no big fanfare, and it just dies to a cherry bomb, some attacks to bloom it, and some power slashes. And then the Jello Wimp is defeated by the power of explosives.
And at this point we've come to Sasa Sanctuary, which I think I'll let my co-commentator here explain the difficulty of what this trick is going to be here.
Yeah, this is early salsa, also known as salsa for the new game many percent version, because it is early salsa but spicier. And it is one of the hardest and most finicky / inconsistent tricks. But we don't really need to talk about that because Lego just absolutely nails it. Lego just built different.
Fairly, wow.
Like,
did not go well when I was practicing beforehand, so glad I got that one first try there.
Yeah, we will say in the couple of practice runs that Lego did for this marathon, they were getting it like after 3 minutes of attempts and stuff like that.
It was bad.
They were losing a lot of time to that trick, so it's really nice to just get it an easy first try. And this is the first digging minigame with Mr. Bamboo, and well, really just the only digging minigame we do in this run. And it just consists of doing some cherry bombs to speed up the digging and just empowering Mr. Bamboo to go faster so that he gets to the bottom quicker. Lego is gonna be grabbing this bag of gen for safety. It shouldn't be necessary if all goes well, but it's not bad to have it anyway.
Actually, in this round, it actually is completely necessary.
Oh yeah, I forgot you didn't fight Spider Queen this time. Yeah, it's
no,
true. It is absolutely necessary.
Yeah, I did in fact succeed.
Yes, as Shep has mentioned in chat, early Salsa Sanctuary is one of the biggest, most route-defining tricks. It allows us to do a lot of things out of order or in a very different order, because in order to enter Sasa, we would require to do an entire side quest that requires it for it to be night. And since we don't have the power to turn it night, it actually requires us to sit and wait for it to turn night at some point. Which is really slow, as you might expect.
Yeah. Even with that route where you have to wait, you can do all sorts of errands in that time, but I think at best, if you're playing well, you have about 30-40 seconds of just waiting.
I think it can go up to a minute, really. if your movement is really good and you do like the Susano skip and all of that, it all goes very quickly and you have a lot. Now, we just talked to the bird boy, Tai, who is very sad because he lost his dog, which we find in a bamboo hidden in there. How did the dog get there? Don't ask. Now, this is Take. This is the first of the dog fights and the most annoying of them. Take has very weird patterns, so I hope this one goes well. Again, game very realistic. Just like humans and in real life, dogs in this game also very vulnerable to explosives. And that was an excellent Take.
Yeah, it was. Take, it's pretty normal for Take fights to swing by 10 to 20 seconds in time loss. And that's just kind of how it is, because the big downside of using cherry bombs is while they do tons of damage with Steel Fist Sake, they also have a very small automatic explosion radius. So if you wait like 5 seconds, they'll explode automatically. But we want them to not wait. We want to not wait that long. And so when a bomb is right next to an enemy, it will instantly explode. But it has to be right next to the enemy, and there's a lot of finicky things where sometimes that doesn't even work. So a lot of things can go wrong, but luckily this went very well.
And now, worth mentioning that doing the Take sequence served to unlock the fast travel system that we will be using in this game, which is Mermaid Springs and Mermaid Coins, where they're on the way out. Mr. Babu, on his dialogue, actually gives us a Mermaid Coin to use there. And as mentioned earlier, the Mermaid Spring we unlocked by doing the Devil Gate helped us escape Sasa Sanctuary, because the doors to Sasa Sanctuary, even though we entered and did all the things, are still closed. So we can't actually go out the normal way. It's required to have any Mermaid Spring unlocked at that point in order to escape. Otherwise, it is a soft lock. Now, we are entering Kusa Village, which is very, very, very cursed, as you can see with the ominous kanji on screen. It's all very, very, very bad here. We actually cannot use the Celestial Brush in this area. Right now, if Lego tries to brush, it will show like... It would actually bring out the brush, but while trying to brush, the ink will just vaporize and not stick to the screen. So we actually have to go and do a very easy fight here by talking to Priestess Fuse, who is the source of the current extremely cursed state because she's being possessed by some demons, which are 2 green imps and 1 blue imp, which by using our very best friend, Broken Consumable, Exorcism Sleep Small, we are able to make short work of the green imps and take about half the health of the blue imp.
Yeah, normally if we were to do that fight under normal circumstances, we would have just power slash to the blue imp in order to take it out, but because of the ink, I had to just kind of whack at it for a little bit because the brush was locked out.
Now, after doing that and talking to Priestess Fuse, she gives us the canine tracker, which, by the way, randomly does show up for the Take sequence, even though we didn't have it. I don't know if anyone noticed that, but it is a pretty neat detail. In order to progress the side quest here, it's not a side quest, this quest here for the dog feeding, you casually have to find all of the Satomi Cannon warriors that are hidden in Kusa village, which there are 4 of them. But since we fought Take, the game recognizes that we have met one out of the 8 total Satomi Cannon warriors. So the game just adds 1 to the count of how many Cannon warriors we have met. So the quest will progress after feeding only 3 out of the 4 quests, or out of the 4 dogs. This is very helpful for something we will see in a minute, but yeah.
Right there.
Now
I just did another brush adventure here, because curse patches. We did it earlier for when we did Waka skip. I don't even know if we actually mentioned what that skip was. We skipped a fight with Waka way back there during the first brush adventure, and I also did another to a curse patch because one thing that curse patches warp you to where they are when you bloom them, and so right here we're just able to save a little bit of time by just blooming it and getting appearing right up at the top with the curse patch.
And now Isun tells us after feeding Shin, after blooming the curse patch, like, oh, we fed all the dogs here. We should go back to Fuse, even though we've only fed 3 out of the 4. And yeah, as mentioned earlier, this triggers the fight with Tay. This is supposed to be the first out of the dog fights to do it. This is like the tutorial one. It's the one with the least health out of all of them. And hopefully we get a good Tay pattern. Tay can get very annoying, but he usually behaves.
Luckily, I caught right there. Tay was doing a armored attack, which if I just were to try to blow him up immediately, it wouldn't have worked. But I trust that. Whatever. I didn't trust that. So right here, there's a little bit of a scary situation where you can accidentally feed Tay instead of Ko, which is a bad thing because by feeding Ko here, we warp to where Ko was supposed to be, that dog I just fed. This is the dog that we skipped feeding, and by feeding Ko, we warp halfway through the village basically and save some time that way by skipping a bunch of running back.
And just for reference, we do refer to that affectionately as the meat warp. By using a meat feedback to warp to where Ko used to be. And that is not only convenient to escape Kusa village, it is actually a requirement. If you do not feed Ko, you actually are unable to progress the quest to get all of the Satomi power orbs, which will be required to enter Gelshrine later. Well, required is in quotation marks, because there is a trick to enter it early, but wait, I don't think it's worth mentioning.
It's not worth mentioning now, and it's definitely not marathon safe. So
yeah. Yeah, now we are heading to the city checkpoint. This is another of the route-defining moments of the run. We're gonna be doing city checkpoint skip. Now, in order to cross to the other side of city checkpoint, casually, you're required to get the Inferno brush power in order to light up Yohei's. Did I get the name right? Yoichi. Oh yeah, Yoichi. Thank you. I always forget.
Right.
To light up poor Yoichi's arrow in order for him to commit a war crime, which will lower the bridge. Thankfully, we can save poor Yoichi's soul and just swim across and do some very cool, clever, and hard platforming. Of course, getting Inferno, if you are very well informed. Oh no.
Alright, that's okay. Just a bit of annoying time loss.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, if you're well informed on the game or have good memory from your childhood, from playing it back then, Inferno is a brush power that is in the Moon Cave. So a more fitting name for this trick will be Mooncave Skip, actually, because this does allow us to escape the Mooncave. But yeah, we call it City Checkpoint Skip as, yeah, it is a more descriptive name of what you actually physically do.
There we go.
Now,
so yeah, that was City Checkpoint Skip. So by doing a sliding ground tackle, we land on the tip of the rock, slide off while doing a tackle, and as mentioned previously, when doing boulder skip, you can jump out of ground tackles. And so ground tackles, even when they fly off into the air, you can jump out of them. So by jumping out of it, we can just make it to the side of that rock there, do a wall jump, and then get the last bit of height we need by doing a bonk, basically, on the side to bonk right up to where we need to go.
And also, as usual, very worth mentioning that is a very, very, very difficult trick. And yeah, Lego built different, gets it first try, easy peasy, no biggie, business as usual.
Yeah, that's the first real hard trick that beginners generally move from, because it is. I think it took me 6 hours just to get it for the first time.
And we get another cool brush adventure by clipping the camera off bounds. We can skip a lot of movement and cutscenes by taking the water from the bottom basin thingy to the top. Straight up. And there's a cool walking while talking there. You can see Lego can open the minimap and spin around while the cutscene plays. And now we have bloomed the Ryoshima sapling, which means we can move around in this area. We have been talking a lot during the early game about how we need to watch our money, The breakpoint we wanted to reach was 20,000 yen, which if you were paying attention to the money numbers on the bottom right corner, we did reach very comfortably. Why is that? Because we need to have 20,000 yen in order to purchase the double jump power upgrade. Now, this is, but in order to reach the dojo quicker, we do go out of bounds using a small hole in the collision of the stairs, and we jump into the dojo. Now, this is actually the second time. We forgot to mention this earlier, but this is the second time we see this kind of trick.
Also went by a bit too fast to mention it. Yeah, so this is an interior clip. We'll be doing at least one more that I can remember in this run. Basically, like a lot of games of the era especially, the interiors of buildings are not a different place entirely. They're not actually inside the building, but are instead stored far below the map. And when you walk in, you just teleport all the way down. So right here, what we can do is by getting out of bounds, we can just fall all the way into them way below the map. So we did that in order to get into Sasa Sanctuary early, and we did it here in order to get to the dojo a bit faster.
Yeah, casually getting to the dojo actually requires the lily pad brush power, which we did entirely skip. But you don't actually super hard require it. There's a weird thing you can do in order to jump out of the water and get into the dojo and not do the clip.
I don't think we even mentioned the lily pad skip when I did that.
Yeah.
But I did skip the power of lily pad. That is one of the easiest skips for this game, really.
And also, you just saw Lego do some weird movement around the stone port thingy. That was another fight skip of fight trigger that is actually just barely small enough. This one is actually very massive, and there's just a tiny hole on the left side that we can jump through. And now, this is gonna be another one of the interior clips that we just explained. This is gonna be to get the Fireburst brush upgrade early.
What?
Now, remember that quest we did earlier with the moles and the teacup? Well, here is where our surprise tool helps us. We got that mushroom in order to give it to Yama, who is trying to perfect his cuisine at his restaurant, and he needs the perfect ingredient. So by giving him the mushroom, he will be able to cook good, so good that it has the fire god inside it. And now, the reason why we have to do this interior clip is because the restaurant doesn't actually exist. Well, the loading zone for the restaurant doesn't actually exist on the map right now, as the map is cursed. We would require to do an entire mini dungeon side quest, a full dungeon, in order to uncurse the map and be able to enter the restaurant. Fortunately, the interior is always there, even if the area isn't healed or purified.
One other really nice part of doing this trick right now is by doing Fireburst right now, as it turns out, eating all that food gives you money as well. So I was down to around 1,000 yen after buying Double Jump, but I got 26,000 yen from getting Fireburst right there and eating all the food. So, some nice money.
Now, instead of doing the things that the game wants us to do, which is save people, do good, all that stuff, we don't have time for that. We're just gonna go to the next area by doing this trick. The proper formal name for the trick is North Ryoshima Early, but it is affectionately referred in the community as Toaster for reasons that are too much.
Not necessary.
Yeah, there's too much. It's too much of a meme and like 3 bad puns in one to explain it. And that trick, as usual, I feel like I keep saying this, way harder than Lego makes it look. There's actually some very complex mechanics around it where this out-of-bounds collision that Lego has to navigate around has something that we call a jump barrier, which is some collision when Ami is above it, the jump button is entirely disabled. So Lego has to do sliding ground tackles to navigate the jump barriers, in order to do the sliding ground tackle, jump out of it, do another sliding ground tackle by going back onto the jump barrier and jump out of it, and all of that. But yeah, it just gets easy first try. Very, very clean. Now, as we get to North Ryoshima, we meet Waka, and Waka tells us that, oh yeah, you're so slow, I actually got here before you and purified the area myself, which tells us just like how much of a mean person Waka is. Like, Waka could have done this all this time, but instead, he let us just do the dirty work. Like, we don't even have to save people, Waka can do it.
Yeah,
like, I mean, that's why we go fast.
I got here in like 40 minutes. Is that not fast enough?
Yeah,
come on, man.
Waka just much better. Like, Waka should actually do speedruns. I'm sure he could get the world record pretty easily.
So we've done a lot of skips to push forward in the game right now. But at this point, it's time to go and do some cleanup, where we skipped some stuff earlier, but we actually can't skip all of it. So right now we're doing another Susano QTE, and this one is just slicing some more imps. And this is actually required because we need to go fight some more dogs. And one of the dog fights is actually, you need to do this QTE in order for the dog to be available to fight, basically. So that's why we're doing this.
Oh yeah, and by the way, during all this, like, it's the monsters are threatening Kushi, and Susano is saying something like, leave my Kushi alone during the in his dialogue, and the characters that you get from power slashing, I think, spell out something like, I love you, Kushi, or something like that. Someone once mentioned it to me. Yeah, and I forget what the exact wording was, but it's something along the lines of, I love you, Kushi, which is pretty cute. Now, as a lot of things go in this route, this is actually the third time we meet Kokari canonically, and the second time we do a fishing game with Kokari, but for some reason the game gets confused, and since we haven't done a fishing mini game, it goes and does the entire tutorial thing, and we actually get the fish from the first fishing mini game here, which is just a pretty fun detail. Instead of getting the whopper which swallowed the moon in the Legends, we get the giant salmon from the first fishing minigame. And this actually works out pretty great because we do get to entirely skip one fishing minigame. We get the benefits from both, like we get the rewards from both fishing minigames, namely the crescent brush power, which lets us make the moon show up in the sky and make it night. The fight with Ume, who is one of the Satoni cannon warriors that we want to fight in order to get into the Gale Shine, and the key to Tsuta Ruins, which we actually don't care for, and well, in all, like through to all of this, we don't want it. It's kind of inconvenient to have it. But yeah, after freeing the moon from that whopper of a salmon, shout out to Kinnan, we get to meet the moon god. There's a very funny cutscene there where the moon god tries to hit Ami with the hammer that he's using to soften Mochi, because you know sun and moon deities beefing with each other. And now we fight Ume, which is really one of the kindest dogs.
Yes, Ume is by far the most consistent and easiest fight, and you know, I thank Ume every day for that. All the other fights at least have a decent amount of RNG that can affect them, but if you play Ume well, Ume will always go the same way.
Yeah, Ume really, like, when you play it well, Ume will really just steer around and take explosives to the face. Which
So
is
I'm not actually going to use the key
really
to
nice.
Tsuta Ruins. Instead, I'm going to use a tree, which is like just as good, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
And that's all I really need in order to get into Tsuta Ruins.
Yeah, like we're staying eco-friendly. Who needs keys? Those leave behind waste. Just use biodegradable trees, you know?
And I'm immediately going to go the wrong way in this dungeon as well. There's sort of this dude, Blockhead, here, that's kind of in our way, and we're just going to try to go right through him.
Now, also, Lego did some weird movement at the beginning with that wall jump. That's actually a cutscene skips. That saves around 20 to 30 seconds by skipping an unskippable camera pan cutscene for Tsuta Ruins, which like shows you the overall outlook of the area. Now, as you have noticed, Lego actually used a tree to clip into Tsuta Ruins and a tree to clip into Blockhead. These are actually uses of the same kind of glitch. However, the use of Blockhead is much harder, so it's pretty nice that Lego got it third try.
Fourth, I think. It was pretty good.
Fourth,
pretty good.
Yeah,
That can,
yeah.
It's another one of those tricks that, you know, sometimes it goes fine, and most of the time it really does go okay. Not too many tries, but on some days it just can take absolutely forever to get past it.
Yeah, so that's just pretty nice. And that skips really half of the entire dungeon.
Yep.
It lets us go straight here. Now, fun thing. We can rejuvenate this bridge right now. But that bridge actually checks for you to have sunrise. So, in a world record run, Lego would have to do some very weird platforming to get past some invisible walls and jump past the bridge. Because we wouldn't have sunrise, but thankfully we do have sunrise and we can just rejuve it and run across.
So right here in this fight, I upgraded my ink and my wallet size. We will be needing some more money. We will be needing lots of money, especially in the late game, so we need to be able to carry more money around. And ideally, that will also be the final praise upgrades I do in this run. So ideally, you know, I'm not going to be getting any more ink, I won't be getting any more wallet size, and I can upgrade my health if I need to, but hopefully I won't.
Yeah, worth mentioning, before starting the second Devil Gate in this triple gate room in Tsuta Ruins, Lego did a bit of a brush adventure where they just went and turned the camera somewhere random and did a fireburst. Looks pretty weird, right? That actually has a very important purpose. there are some pots here in that spawn at the top of the waterfall there. They are actually there before doing all of the triple gate rooms, all of the gates in the room. However, they don't trigger their destruction until you finish the gates and make the sunrise here.
Whoa, I got this. Oh my goodness. I guess I'll show this off. This is the best time I could possibly get this because I have sunrise. But I just got walking while talking. So this is what walking while talking looks like. This is actually really bad in a run most of the time. And I couldn't have actually gone into this loading zone right here because if I had kept the walking while talking, the loading zone wouldn't have existed. So that is actually a pretty scary glitch most of the time. If you have that happen in a run, you would lose like at least a minute or more. But because of the marathon safety routing we're doing, it actually is totally fine for that to happen. And that is also an extremely rare thing. So the skip we did right there, I did the fire burst up there and all this other stuff in order to just skip a really long cutscene by overlaying cutscenes. And that is the third time I think I've ever gotten it where if you skip the cutscene in a very certain way, we don't really know why it happens. The cutscene will you'll end up with walking while talking. And this actually causes day to not reset, which is a pretty odd side effect to really being worrying about. But if it happens in a run, you lose massive amounts of time. So, got pretty lucky that it happens here. It's kind of fun to show it off as a very random glitch to actually get. But yeah, we also got the power of Vine there. Vine is is basically the hook shot of this game from Zelda games. It's very similar. And it will be useful in this run. It is required in this run because at the end of the game there's going to be a boss rush where we need certain powers in order to get past it. But it will also be useful for a couple other tricks in this run to do a couple skips. So we'll see those when we get to them.
Now we're heading to our final dogfight here. We are going all the way back to the beginning to Kameki Village, where we will fight Hayabusa. Now, the reason why we did the turnip digging minigame way at the beginning after getting Sunrise is in order to be able to fight Hayabusa. Because if you don't do the digging minigame, Hayabusa will be like, oh my god, you are actually so bad at digging, it's not even worth fighting you. So by doing the digging minigame and becoming the digging champ, Hayabusa will be like, I respect you. You're worth fighting. Let's fight man to man. And that is the exact phrasing. Hayabusa is like man to man, fist to fist. Even though it's like wolf and dog, claw to paw or something. But yeah, Hayabusa, very, very proud dog. Really doesn't respect people who are bad at digging, so you know.
Imagine being a beta digger. Truly Hayabusa does not respect you, if that's the case. So yeah, here we're going to be fighting Hayabusa. This is actually has a little bit of a twist on these dogfights, so I'm going to be abusing the fact that bombs will automatically trigger when they are inside of grass in order to get basically a free first bomb off. Okay, I don't know why this bomb isn't working. It also has the side effect of most of the time it will shoot vegetables out, but luckily it didn't this time. As picking up vegetables causes a text box, and we want to avoid those text boxes to save time, obviously.
Well, sadly we didn't get to see it much, but Hayabusa is somewhat meant to be the last dog you fight, so he has a lot of twists to the fight. Not only in terms of strats, but in actual mechanics that the game implements. And that actually makes him be less annoying than some of the other dogs instead of more annoying, because a lot of the twists Hayabusa implements make him easier to be manipulated, because he has very set behavior when he does it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the dog's AI is pretty. There's just a few different random things they can do. Some of them are really nice. Like in that case, Hayabusa Most of the dogs have a sort of like, I will just sit here and watch you beat me up thing. Not totally sure why they have that. Seems kind of not like a great idea for a fight, but they do it sometimes. But other dogs have various different things. So what makes Ume so nice is that pretty much all of his different AIs pretty much always will come at you and sit for at least long enough where you can always get a bomb off before he like starts doing anything. So that's what makes Ume so nice, and the other dogs a bit harder because they do not have that guarantee.
Now, LEGO just pulled off a strat that is affectionately referred to as the SWAT Gate, developed or initially conceptualized by community member Wishmaker. The strat consists of using cherry bombs for a bit of a riskier fight that makes the fight go quicker, because one thing that is very interesting in Okami is that when you have fights that go in waves, or in general any fight, in order for it to progress, it doesn't end or go to the next wave until the enemy's death animation is over for anything except boss fights. So enemies actually have different death animations depending on how you kill them. And for green imps in particular, the death animation to cherry bombs is much, much faster to the death animation from normal attacks or power slashes. So by killing them with cherry bombs, it makes the fight go way quicker from the waves spawning much, much faster, as they just are eviscerated from existence from the power of gunpowder.
Yeah, because we fight so few enemies overall in this run, this isn't too much of a mechanic that we will be seeing, but in longer runs especially, there's a few more times when we'll be doing specific things just to end fights a bit faster, to have different death animations. And I think in this run there's only one other enemy that I'm really going to be worrying about the death animation, and that won't be till near the end of the game. So this has been a bit of a lull, but finally circling around me are the Satomi Power Orbs, which are required in order to enter Gale Shrine here.
Yeah, you probably noticed that the game really slows down for a bit after we get into North Ryoshima after Toaster. And we go back and do a lot of backtracking, tick boxes that we left unticked in order to progress the game a bit faster in other sites. But this is the final step of the backtracking. Now we have all the Satomi Power Orbs, we can enter Gale Shrine, and we can go in and get what we're here for, which is really just, as usual, get the brush power that is here, and then leave everyone hanging dry to their fates, and try and work it out for themselves, because we're not really helping people in this route. We're kind of really mean. So yeah, we just get the brush power and leave.
Yeah, we didn't mention this before, but in Pseudo Ruins, we did most of we skipped half the dungeon, did the stuff required so that we could get the brush power, and then we left. There is a boss to Pseudo Ruins, but we just didn't really deal with it because there just wasn't really a point in fighting that boss. Fighting the boss of Pseudo Ruins, Spider Queen, is basically has the sequence to let you cross the Yugata River, but we had our own method of doing that, so there wasn't really a need to.
Okay, Lego, I have a bit of a theory. Can you entertain my theory for a second?
Sure.
So, what I've been thinking for a long time is this is gonna be a bit of spoilers for the final boss rush, but in the Arc of Yamato, the way I understand it is that when you kill a major boss, they go to the Arc of Yamato. So what I think is that even though we don't help anyone, all the bosses we ignore still show up in the Arc of Yamato, So I don't think we actually did that bad. I think we really just left people to their own devices, and eventually they figured it out themselves, We actually let them exercise their autonomy. We're not really just not helping them. We're actually helping them grow stronger by facing hardship by themselves, I think that's a good thing, actually.
I've never heard that theory before, and that sounds like a lot of excuses, but good for you. I'm going to be doing a little trick here. So at the end of this fight, I did a little setup and then drew a bomb. And the reason for this is that it will fall all the way down and will bring the elevator back up to my floor. And that just saves a few seconds here so that I don't have to fall down and then draw a cherry bomb just so I can come right back up to this floor.
Yeah, and I think LEGO kinda dislikes it because it is way too ridiculous and bad of a trick name, but that name is called the old Razzle and Dazzle.
And I wonder who came up with that name.
Such a good name.
Anyway, Wrestle Dash, I did. So yeah, this is all we're really doing in Gale Shrine. Gale Shrine is, you know, I'll be frank, it's probably my least favorite dungeon of the game. There's really just not a lot of tricks or anything to do. We'll be doing one trick when leaving, but outside of that, just not a whole lot. But we are here. We made it to the top of Gale Shrine by this giant windmill, and this is going to allow us to get the brush power we wanted. So first we have to wind away the evil winds, or gale storm away the evil winds. And then after doing that, the constellation will come out now that it's daytime. That's when constellations come out. And we will get the power of Gale Storm.
And yeah, we're not entirely bad, you know. We do somewhat cleanse the curse by freeing Kasagami here and blowing away the evil wind, so we are doing something to help these people. We're not entirely leaving them to their own devices.
Yeah, the trick here is I'm going to do a little bit of a double jump and then bonking over an invisible wall, and that allows us just to fall all the way back down to this bridge and just allows us to leave from here. So that saves about 30 seconds or so of instead having to backtrack and fall down the elevator, which takes quite a bit longer.
And yeah, the bright side of this trick is not really that it makes Gale Shrine more active or fun. It's actually a pretty simple trick. The greatest plus side of the trick is that it makes Gale Shrine shorter, so we have to spend less time here.
Yeah.
Now, on the way out, Isn't Dust tells us something like, okay, are you sure you want to leave and just leave these people to their own devices? And we're like, yeah. And then he says, okay, but remember, you can't ignore Crimson Hell forever. Which we do.
We do. There's no reason. Fighting Crimson Helm is simply a means to go to the Moon Cave, and we don't need to go to the Moon Cave, so no reason to fight Crimson Helm. You know, I mean, all the people here seem pretty happy. You know, they got their wins back. I'm sure they're fine. It's all good.
I mean, yeah, they can breathe, you know? I think that's enough.
Yeah,
help.
That's true. I think that's really what they need, is they need to breathe, and that's all. Anyway, we're going to do a little bit of shopping here. I'm going to sell this fish, and then I'm going to buy 3 large exum slips. So this is going to be our first instance of buying large exum slips, and it will not be the last time. Large exum slips are very useful items. Small exum slips have been able to clear out small fights nearly all on their own, and large ones, well, with a few of them you can clear out anything. So yeah, we'll be seeing a lot of those. But as mentioned before, Gale Shrine was the last of our backtracking. We finished up the dog quest, and now we can finally head back to North Hiroshima, where we originally warped back from. Now that we have Gale Storm in tow, we can actually continue with the game.
Now, as we head to Hiroshima, we're gonna be seeing the first of a series of very hard and somewhat inconsistent tricks. It's gonna be, these are a couple of tricks called the Demon Boost. It's a type of deboost that abuses the end of fight animation by attacking in the middle of it in order to get a deboost by interrupting the attack, the meter attack animation. Now, these tricks are frame perfect and they don't actually have a consistent visual cue. So LEGO has to actually mash through them and hope they get the right frame.
Oh my goodness, why can't I power slash? But yeah, these are not my favorite trick, as you might imagine. It's just a mash and pray. But the reason we're doing this is because normally to get up to Watcher's Cape here, you need the power of Catwalk, and Catwalk takes a while to get. Though this is also taking a while.
Yeah, Catwalk is a whole entire sequence of just pressing jump a whole lot of times to get up the tower, and it's not really that entertaining. It's just a bit of a lull to a run that already has a big, like, it just makes the lull and boring part of the run much longer. So it is really worth skipping. It makes the run a whole lot faster, but it does make it way harder by adding the demon boost.
That almost went wrong, but managed to get up to Watcher's Cape. Normally that was pretty unlucky. My average is normally about 3 to 4 tries per demon boost, and that was like 8. So definitely a bit unlucky there, but you know, maybe we'll have some chance to maybe make up that luck at other demon boosts. And
I think that
anyway.
I think that must be mentioned is that not only do you need to get lucky with the mash and get the right frame for the demon boost, you also need to execute on it when you get it, right? So it's not only somewhat luck based, it's also hard.
Yeah.
So really good to get it. Now, like, I must bring up again how realistic this game is. So this sequence is someone makes a wish to see the spiral galaxy. So obviously the spiral galaxy shows up out of nowhere in the sky because that's how it works in real life. And just like in real life, we can use our brush to make the wind blow in Japan, which makes the galaxy light years away from Earth, spin around in the firmament, you know? Because that's exactly how it works in real life. I really appreciate the extensive lengths that they went to make the game realistic.
Well, it's worth mentioning that even after that, by spinning the galaxy in the sky, this then causes a whirlpool to open up in Japan. So once again, just really realistic stuff.
They just went every step further, you know, like they took it as far as they could in terms of realism, and I really do appreciate that a lot. It's really good.
But yeah, so right now here I just summoned Orca. Only comes to those that are worthy. So there was a kid over there who's not actually a kid, who was saying, hey, I want to meet Orca again, and Orca didn't really want to meet him again, but Orca's willing to hang out with us, so that's pretty nice. So now I have a ride into the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace is where the Dragonians live, who all have little, like, well, maybe not all of them, at least some of them have little, like, fish ears, like little fin things sticking out. Maybe that's only Otohime. I've actually never thought about it. Anyway, we're going up to meet Otohime right now, the Queen of the Dragonians, and we're gonna have to do a little bit of talking to her, because we can't actually go progress the story until she gives us a certain item. And so we're gonna talk to her about how the water dragon's being a big meanie and eating people, and we don't want him to eat people anymore. And she's like, yeah, I don't really like it either, but it's my husband, you know, and you know how husbands are. No, she actually tells us to go murder her husband, so that's what we're gonna do here. Now we have the item to go over here, so this guard will actually let us through, and from here we can head into the grotto of the water dragon. And here the water dragon is sleeping nice and, you know, very nice, just right there. Mouth nice and agape for us to just fall right into.
One really funny thing about Otohime is that we have to talk to her 4 times, and even then we have to tell her we want her to stop talking, or else, like, we actually have to tell her to stop.
Yeah, she will just keep talking our ear off forever with the same story unless we tell her no.
You folks have a moment?
Yeah.
So I did get something in from somebody, from Star Rock, who said pork.
Oh, thank you. Thank you,
Let's
Fire.
go, Fire.
Bork is a bit of a meme in our community. I can't show it right now because I'm holding an item, but bark buttons. Good
Just wanted to remind people that there is upcoming incentives for runs, especially one to follow this, which is Lena's Inception. There's a bid war for the art style between 32-bit and 8-bit. So I don't know what that necessarily means because I've only seen the game in 32-bit. So
More reason to see it in 8-bit.
yeah. Currently 8-bit, I believe, is in the lead as well. So.
Maybe people need to make sure of that.
But just want to say the commentary for this run has been super chill, super exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Having a good time.
Yeah, now, as you can see, we're inside the water dragon, and it is like all the water dragons, right? There's hallways, there's platforms, there's lamps, there's deadly acid. You know, every single water dragon I've been inside in my life has been like this. Just your run-of-the-mill dragon. So yeah, we are gonna be making the dragon's stomach acidity problems worse by giving here a severe ulcer. And Lego is gonna go for a trick called Boneless. Now, casually, you would have the lily pad brush power here in order to go past here. Unfortunately, we don't have that, so we would have to swim all the way. However, we only have 3 solar units of health, which is not enough to make it. Unfortunately, Lego does not get boneless doesn't quite get boneless, but by doing some somewhat precise brushwork and using that corner there to stay out of the acid for a bit, you can actually entirely skip healing in that segment without getting all the way to the platform.
Yeah,
that trick is called boneless because before it was developed, we used to actually buy a holy bone in order to survive the swim all the way to the platform.
Yeah, and as part of doing that trick, one thing, even if you do have a bone, I was going into the first-person camera there so that I could draw the acid from where I was all the way over to the dragon orb in the room over there, so that, because we need to do that 3 times, so by going into first-person, we can start doing it early. First-person has a couple little benefits. Mostly it's bad because when you use it, you actually completely stop. But there's a couple times when using it is actually advantageous.
Yeah, so sadly there aren't applications of it in the current route, but there are some really cool glitches and abuses that you can get from first person that flip Ami around really funnily. Also, we didn't really mention it because it went really smoothly, but the escape from Water Dragon is actually a very heavy RNG. Like, it's one of the heavier RNG parts of the run. The acid rain there is entirely RNG, except from the part that it actually has a higher probability of dropping acid rains around Ami. So it can be really bad because it will damage you down, and if you get hit in the there while doing the optimal movement, you can sometimes fall all the way to the bottom of the water and lose a bunch of time having to climb back up. Fortunately, it went absolutely great, and we went really fast without even taking damage. And now, this is your final warning to go take a break, head to the bathroom, grab some water, because the run is about to go full steam ahead after this bit of a running segment with the cool music. We are heading on towards what I like to refer as entirely the end game of the run. And there's just gonna be constant tricks, cool movement that you don't want to miss out on. I promise you, it is insane.
We don't have it up too much. Don't want it to be a letdown.
Yeah. Come on, yeah, I gotta hype
really
you
is
up.
cool. It really is cool. Yeah, so in the game, what we're doing right now is that Otohime, we came back and we were like, yo, Water Dragon's not really so hot anymore. And she's like, great. By the way, how's Queen Himiko? We haven't met Queen Himiko, but we told her we don't know. And she's like, well, actually, you just gave an item to like an evil person, and also Queen Himiko is in danger. And we're like, whoops. So now we're going to Queen Himiko.
I'm sure we'll make it in time. Queen Himiko should be fine.
Yeah, you know, she's got some kind of supernatural powers.
Yeah, she can see the future and all that, I think, right? So
Something
like
like
she
that.
should see it coming and be fine if anything bad's gonna happen.
So yeah, so right here we're going to. Turns out there's this character called Rao. Haven't really met her, but if we had, she would have been helping us and stuff, and we gave her an item. But actually, Rao has been dead this entire time, and we've been talking to an evil Rao with emo hair. So because of this, we the ghost of the true Rao shows us a secret entrance into the palace because the main way is actually blocked off right now.
Oh, yeah, something that I didn't know until someone told me is that in this secret hallway entrance, you can actually see Rao's corpse right at the end, right at the beginning. And if you interact it tells you that it's been there for a long time, which is to suggest that all this time we've been talking to an impersonator while thinking we were talking to Rao.
So yeah, and at this point, this is going to be a pretty big trick. This is going to be Fire Tablet Skip, which didn't land in the loading zone. You can actually jump over the trigger for the elevator here, which is pretty funny.
So when playing the game casually and getting here before getting the Fire Tablet, most people will probably have the thought of like, oh my god, I can get so close but not quite, like it looks so possible. It looks like you could just barely make it. And actually, yeah, you can just barely make it. It's a pretty cool trick. It does require a frame perfect input though, which obviously makes it hard.
And it's worth mentioning that frame perfect input is only with the advent of technology that if you played casually, you definitely wouldn't have. Making this trick actually without that technology, something like quintuple frame perfect, and also you need to just kind of get lucky on the first one because it's actually sub frame perfect. So like you move too fast and it just like you can't jump from the right spot. So it's very difficult.
Like you can see Lego like jumping into the door frame at the beginning. That is in order to set up the position, and then they do a brush buffer in order to set up when they start moving forward in order to make sure the right frame exists. Now, Lego actually gets the good frame on the first jump, but unfortunately misses the second jump in this scenario. For this, all of these setups were developed by Love Outright, prominent community member, former world record holder, and developer for bots, and just like the person who made the beginner guide. A very, very
active
cool
and very
person
cool
in the
person.
community. Yeah, very active. Yeah. There's a lot of compliments that can be said to about Outright.
We did make it across, and now we get to fight Evil Rao with the power of Steel Fistake Cherry Bombs. We got good RNG here. This fight can... there's sort of a 50-50 every time you blow her up. Either she becomes completely vulnerable and you just win the fight immediately, or you get incredibly unlucky and she does an invincible roll that you can only go for the 50-50 again afterwards. So right there I got good luck, got the 50-50 on the first bomb, so pretty nice.
And once again, humanoid enemy, very, very vulnerable to explosives.
Yes.
And now we have to do Fire Tablet Skip again in reverse, but thankfully it's a lot easier on the way back because of the way the door frame collision is spread out. And Lego gets it first try.
Luckily Letty's here. Alright, I'm gonna go for it. I'm not gonna get it, but I'm gonna go for it.
Okay, I'd love to see it.
Wait, no, I hit the... Okay, I almost got it. So that was... if I got that, that would have been super cool. I went for a trick called an origin warp there, which is a little bit easier to get there. It is normally... I'm not going to go through the whole explanation. It would have been cool if I got it. But not getting it loses me like 5 seconds, so it's not a big deal. It's just a fun little trick. I almost got it there because it requires getting a frame-perfect tackle jump thingy. That is rather difficult to do, and I did get that, but then I still messed up and ran into the door frame and lost my speed afterwards, so just how it is. But here we're just running out of Seion. When Queen Himiko died, she actually put herself into a crystal ball, which we then need to... before she completely dies, She tells us that we need to go to Oni Island because she knows where it is. This is like the base of our enemy, and so now we're running. We got to get there as soon as possible because at night it will move again. But we're going to take a quick stop here, and this is going to be something that will become a little bit familiar for the end of this run. I'm going to stop. I'm going to buy some large exorcism slips, and I'm just going to leave.
Yeah, exorcism slips are very expensive, so we can't really abuse them during the first half of the run. But late game bosses give us a lot of money. So for the rest of the run, like most, not to say like all but one, of the boss fights are gonna consist of using the exorcism slips we bought.
Yeah. That's not to say they will only be exorcism slips and we just walk in and use them. That will happen, but most of them, that's not how it goes. There will still be some interesting fighting that needs to happen first, but we will be using exorcism slips as our source of damage. And so now we still don't have Catwalk and we need to get up on the Water's Cape, and so we have to go again.
Yeah, this deep boost is actually a bit more intensive on how many retries you want to have it in, because you're on a timer from the day-night cycle, because in the lore, Oni Island moves every single night. So you start this segment when it's turning to dusk by default in order to create a sense of urgency. That's how the game manages it. Fortunately, the game has a fail-safe where if it does turn to night, Isun will just tell you like, oh, we're late, no, and just reset the timer.
I think that was my last shot to get it, so very happy I got that.
Yo, nice. Oh, by the way, I don't think we mentioned this earlier when it happened, but there's this weird movement that Lego does around Waterscape. That's another funny fight skip, and that one's even funnier if you've been a community member for a bit long enough, because we used to do it in a very roundabout, dumb way, and then a week ago or so, Saunders Tech was like, yo, why do we do it like that? It's actually so easy.
You can just run around it.
You can just run around it, and we're like, oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, we are going into one of the more densely packed segments of the game, which is Oni Island. Right out of the gate, we do what we call the forehead jump, which is a precise jump to skip a use of Inferno and the Fire Tablet. Casually, to get up there, you need, as I said, to have both Inferno to make the lava rise up and the Fire Tablet to not die to the lava. But by doing that precise jump, we can get up and then go out of bounds. This is Oni Island Labyrinthscape, known in the community as Keitila's Oni Islandscape for too many reasons. But yeah, Lego is essentially trying to do as many frame-perfect jumps as they can to keep momentum going as they go around. If you might remember from your own casual experience, you actually go outside of Oni Island at some point in order to get the Thunderstorm brush power. So thankfully, this outside where we get the brush power is the same outside where we begin the dungeon. So by going out of bounds and running all the way around, we can get to the statue rejuvenated and get the brush power. And doing the constellation, as a lot of things do, actually teleports Ami onto the ledge. So it works out really nicely.
So after doing that, we're immediately going to go backwards in the dungeon. We just skipped doing this, but I'm actually going to run backwards because there's a one area in this like entire dungeon where there's no ceiling right here. This is awesome skip, and can I even get it? Yeah, you explain. Sorry.
Yeah, Lego does this weird tackle into the wall to get Ami halfway out of bounds is a good way to describe it. That isn't perfect. Then going halfway out of bounds by re-entering bounds, Ami gets a small boost in height. And with that small boost in height, we get enough, just enough, that we can go actually out of bounds And with that, we can maneuver the out-of-bounds collision in order to get into this 2D segment early. Now, LEGO actually abused a very particular part of the way dash restoration mechanics work in this segment, which is dash restoration mechanics actually store not only your value for your color of dash, it actually stores like Ami's momentum, including the vertical one. So LEGO did a technique that is called the slope storage in order to get extra bit of height and skip an extra cycle by getting up there earlier, which saves about 6 to 7 seconds to the next faster cycle. And yeah, it is insanely smooth. And I think I've been saying this way too much, but it is way harder than LEGO makes it look. I just end up saying this every time, you know, because everything in this game is hard, but LEGO always ends up making it look easy. Now, it doesn't slow down, by the way. On the island just keeps going. We are now in the 4th floor. LEGO is doing this platforming in order to skip cutscene triggers and fight triggers at the same time. Now, LEGO does this movement to get in a very particular position and use this vine in order to go out of bounds, power slash it at a not too precise but somewhat precise timing, vine again to get past this gate and entirely finish skipping Toby. This is very good, not only because it saves time, but because by not racing Toby at all, we save his life and keep him in the blissful ignorance that he is the best racer.
Yeah, Toby is sort of the main character of Oni Island, and we were supposed to do 7 different races with Toby, but because of Labyrinth Skip and that Toby Skip is what the Vine trick I just did is called, we luckily, we never meet Toby, but we can know in our hearts that he's safe.
There are some people who would argue that it would be better to kill Toby because by not killing him at the race, we are depriving him of the one joy in his life that is racing. But I digress. It's much better to keep. Yeah,
the morals are complicated. You know, it's hard
I
to
think
say.
Toby is just the best boy, and it's better to keep him alive.
So
Now
this is Ninetales.
Yeah. The Ninetales fight goes by pretty quickly, but the gimmick of Ninetales is that you can't actually damage her. You have to take her into this state where she breaks down into Tails by hitting her a bit, which we do with a cherry bomb, and then after she roars, she becomes vulnerable to Thunderstorm, and by using the Thunder Clouds, we hit her with Thunderstorm, which separates her into Tails. We do this 2 times and use Exorcism Slips to kill the Tails. And afterwards, she is down to 1 out of 9 Tails, where she is very, very vulnerable to Exorcism Slips. 4 Exorcism Slips, and it's done. And with that said, we are heading into the final area of the game. Just a bit of movement to get there, and we will be heading back again all the way to the beginning to Shinshu Field, where the end of the game was actually hidden all along. We will need to skip one more use of Catwalk through Demon Boost, though. You would require casually to have Catwalk in order to get up on that Shinshu Plateau, where the entrance to Kamui, which is only accessible with Thunderstorm, will be there waiting for us. This is not the last use of Catwalk that we skip, by the way, just the last one we skip with Demon Boost in particular. And yeah, for this one, there isn't any stress on day-night cycle going, but hopefully LEGO will get it within a reasonable amount of attempts.
Nice, got it first try.
There we go.
So
nice.
That was pretty good.
Now, this Thunderstorm in particular, because of the camera angle we get from the movement after the Demon Boost, can be pretty annoying. But it does happen first try too. So yeah, we are into Kamui now. And how do I say this? I really do hope y'all don't like Kamui too much. I hope you like it. It has a very nice atmosphere. I really like it myself, but we won't be seeing a lot of it. We really don't see any of it at all, really. We just walk through places and get to the places we want to go. Right out of the bat, after getting here into Kamui, we will be entirely skipping the encounter with Aki. This is going to be done through our brush adventure. We are going to take the brush out of bounds and skip all of the first sequence, all of the intro sequence to Kamui. By taking the brush out of bounds here, Lego will actually be able to bloom the Guardian Sapling from below, instead of having to fight Aki in order to open up the next part of this area and then use Thunderstorm to once again make Joichi commit a crime. I mean, yeah, I actually got it right this time. It is Joichi.
Yeah.
We can actually just bloom the Guardian Sapling from below, and it just works out, and we skip all of it, and as usual, brushing, doing stuff, moves Ami to the place where she's supposed to be to brush, even though we're not there. And right after Aki skip, we get what is Igloo Turtle skip. This particular version, outright, I believe, named Ali skip. And we just walk behind a bit, which for some reason activates this Vine Blossom, which we can just go through. Vine is actually one of the very few things that beats collision in this game. There's actually a ton of collision around the Guardian Sapling. And by using that Vine to clip past it, we skip a fight trigger to a very annoying fight. It's not really that slow, it's just very annoying to fight, which is the Igloo Turtle. And yeah, we get past it and we can run straight to Web Gear.
Yeah, so at that shop there, I did buy a bunch of Exorcism Slips like normal, but I did also buy 3 Inkfinity Stones, which give you as much ink as you want for about a minute. And the reason for this is we are going to be in situations where our lack of ink pots is going to actually start mattering. We only have 5 ink pots, and we'll be making heavy use of Fireburst, which uses 3 ink pots. And so all that combined means we're going to be running out of ink really easily if we don't have the, infinite ink item. So, yeah. But here we are in WebKeer, and we're immediately going to do another skip. This is Gate Skip.
Yeah, now we're just gonna skip all of the WebKeer side quests, which is actually that kind of short. This trick doesn't save that much time, but it looks really cool and it saves some time, so it's totally worth doing. It's not that hard. It's somewhat blind out of bounds maneuvering. As you can see, it is a pretty funny looking trick because of the collision and the textures not lighting up a lot at all in this out of bounds segment, because of course it is out of bounds. You are not at all supposed to get out there, right? But yeah, Lego, as usual, does it clean. This one is actually as easy as it looks. Worth pointing out.
Yeah. And speaking of as easy as it looks, this next trick is also going to be as easy as it looks, and is also going to be by far one of the best tricks in the game in terms of time save, especially compared to how easy the trick is. Because at this point, we still haven't really skipped that much of Kamui. We are still required to go to Yoshpet, which does require going all the way up here to get an item first, and then we have to go all the way through Yoshpet, go to Puncton, go through Inner Yoshpet, go back in time, fight Orochi, and then finally after all that we would be able to enter Waku Shrine, which is also up here. But luckily we have a little other way to get into Waku Shrine. So rather than going in this hut, I'm going to jump right on top of it. And then I'm going to go over here. I'm going to use a vine once again, and it's going to drag me up against the wall, luckily not clipping me straight through it this time. And then we're going to use that height to get all the way out of bounds, because vines are also a little glitchy in that you can keep your jump when you vine from them from the ground. So by doing all that, we're able to enter Waku Shrine and skip about half an hour of gameplay. So, yeah, huge time save.
Thankfully, the trigger for the entrance to Waku Shrine extends out of bounds. It's a bit of an oversight, but we're not gonna complain about it at all. Now, something that we have neglected to mention until now is that by skipping Mooncave, we didn't get the Inferno power. And if you remember, Walker Shrine is an ice dungeon, which makes having fire very important here. That is the reason why we got the fire burst. Well, it's not the only reason. We will see more in a bit, but that is one of the reasons why, we got that fire burst rush power. In order to actually be able to progress here. Now, sadly, even though the game allows you to have the upgrade without having the main power, getting the upgrade doesn't automatically give you the main power, which would be really nice to make some things faster and easier, but it's no big deal to us. We're speedrunners, we can handle that. Now, this is the final use of Catwalk that we skip. This requires 2 frame-perfect tackles by using deboosts from the damage animation of these icicles. Here, the Fire Burst is important in order to skip the freezing animation of Ami, so that we don't lose height. This is the reason why it's very important to have Infinity Stones here, as Fire Burst costs 3 ink every time. So we will be running out of ink pretty fast, and Lego gets it pretty fast. Let's go. And also gets the cutscene skip. That movement jumping out of the platform and back in was to skip a camera pan that introduces this area of the dungeon. And yeah, just pretty clean.
And now we're going to see the other use of Fire Burst. Right there, you're supposed to have the power of Veil of Mist, which slows down time. But as it turns out, Fire Burst has the secret also ability of slowing down time. So Fire Burst not only skips getting Inferno, it also skips having to go get Veil of Mist, which is why being able to skip getting the Fire Tablet actually saves so much time. Because on its own, that actually we would still need to do a bunch of that dungeon that we missed. But instead, because Fire Burst is able to replace Veil of Mist, at least for all its uses that we care about, we can just do this. It's pretty cool.
Now, this is a bit of a time save. By using the inner camera to push the camera closer, we can actually just do the Fire Burst from this distance. If you walk any closer to the slot machine, you will get a small cutscene explaining what it is. But like that, you can just skip it and save some time by getting closer. Now, in the game, Isun tells you you are awarded with the Solar Flare ultimate weapon upgrade from getting all of the brush powers and regaining your godly abilities, but we skipped a lot of them and we still get Solar Flare. So that's pretty cool. Thanks, game. And right after that, we are heading into another trick, which will be very important to skip half the dungeon and also preventing the game to crash, funnily enough. This is Nechku skip. Lego navigates out of bounds by abusing a very, very small hole in the collision. It's actually deceptively... there's actually not a weird hole there that you have to go through. It's not going over the wall. There just happens to be a hole there. And going straight into Cannon Room, where you will casually have Veil of Mist here to make this easier, but we have to use Fire Burst here for the slowdown, which makes it a lot harder than it seems. The reason why this is much harder is because Fire Burst actually disables your brush for a long time, for a couple of seconds. That means, like, if you Fire Burst as the shot is coming out, you actually won't regain your power, your ability to brush until much later, until the shot is way too far to be able to be power slashed back into the cannon. So you actually need to have some more precise timing in order to preemptively use Fire Burst, so that when the shot is on screen for you, you regain the power to brush and power slash it back into the cannon. Now, this is Hot Gear Room, which you're supposed to freeze the gears in order to progress, but once again, Lego built different. Some easy, clean platforming to get around it and save a couple of sweet seconds. Now, we are heading into one of the hardest fights in the game. Yeah. This is Lechku and Nechku. It's gonna be a really toughie, so keep your eyes peeled. Also, meet Oki, the elevator dog. That's all he does in this game, right? He's just a dog that is there for the elevator. Yeah. Yeah, just a weird little guy. And yeah, this fight really hard in execution. You have to open the menu a total of 5 times, not 1, 2, 3, or 4. 5 times to use an exorcism slip. Wow, sick execution, Lego.
Thank you. Thank
Honestly,
you so much.
clap. Yeah. Oh my god, that was clean.
All right.
But yeah, we are now heading into the final area of the game. Now for real, pinky promise. The Arc of Yamato, where we will be doing the final boss rush before going to the final boss. And yeah, hopefully Lego attempts tango skip.
Yeah, of course I did. Got it too.
Oh my god, let's go.
So that
Easy
skips
tango
one
skip.
cutscene and saves like 1 second. Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't actually skip one cutscene. There's just this cutscene that has a delayed, like you have to wait a bit before you can skip it. So you just skip that 1 second of unskippable cutscene.
Yeah.
There.
It is a very silly skip.
Yeah, now Lego buys a ton of exorcism slaves in order to make short work of the arc bosses. All of these bosses have mechanics where you need to do something in order to make them vulnerable before you can use slips to one-shot them. Not like Lechko and Nechko, where you can really just obliterate them with slips right off the bat. And actually, Blight, we are unable to make vulnerable to slips because we don't have the Veil of Mist power, which is his direct counter. Fortunately, Blight does do us a favor here and decides to like, you know what, you're cool. I'm just gonna make myself vulnerable even though you don't have the Mist power. So by power slashing Blight in that particular pattern, we can just make the main body of Blight, which is the sword, vulnerable and attack it to death with a couple of power slash for safety. You actually don't need the power slashes there, but the power slashes make it a lot more consistent to get the quick kill.
Yeah, if I don't manage to kill there, I lose probably about 30 seconds or more because I have to wait for him to do that attack specifically again in order to make Blight vulnerable.
Yeah, and that attack will never be the first attack Blight does, unfortunately.
Yeah, I actually also did a small manipulation where, for some reason, by walking slightly forward at the beginning of the fight, Blight will essentially skip an attack that he would have done otherwise. So rather than having to wait through 3 attacks, we only had to wait through 2 attacks before seeing the sword attack. That attack a lot. But now we're heading into what is probably the hardest and also my favorite boss fight of the game.
Yeah, this is usually what we refer to as the real final boss of the game, because it is
A lot of runs have died
the
here.
part. Yeah, like if your run is gonna die in the arc, it's gonna die here. This is one of the hardest parts of the run, really. Well, arguably outside of tricks, obviously. This is the hardest fight by far, and yeah. Now, this is a cool manipulation we do on Orochi. It is called the 3-head strat, where usually you're only supposed to be able to interact with one of the heads of Orochi at the same time. But by having the Earth head be stuck in that stunned animation, you can actually manipulate or interact with more than one head at the same time. This allows us to water spout 3 heads at the same time, which doing that twice gets us the requirement of getting 3 double drunk heads for the bell at the center to be vulnerable, and move on to phase 2 with attacking the bell with 1 water spout and 1 exorcism splash. Now, the second phase is an incredibly hard execution and manipulation stage. Lego is walking just close enough to each head of Orochi to keep the previous head active and in camera properly, and while at the same time getting the fastest possible attack animation from the head they are actively on. All of this while trying to dodge fire or take as little damage from fire as possible without enraging the head. You can there is this RNG fire rain that can hit you and it puts a damage over time on you. You can take it off you by doing a normal attack in the ground, However, if you hit that any head with that attack, it will do like an enraged attack that has a really long animation, messing up the potential for a quick 2-cycle, which Lego gets cleanly. Once again, easy.
Easy.
You know? Yeah, free. It's just free. This game is so easy, right? Like, y'all should just play it and get free world records. If Lego can do it, you can.
I may have lost many runs to Orochi, so I'm glad that went well. So we still have 3 more bosses. Luckily, so in this boss rush, normally we would have fought every single one of these bosses in the main game before coming here. However, because of all these skips that we were able to do, we have actually only fought one of them, Ninetales, which we will be fighting at the end of this boss rush. Our next fight coming up here is Spider Queen. Spider Queen is a very easy fight. It's meant to be your first boss fight of the game, and is part of the reason why we got Vine, because this is what Vine is required for. But outside of that, it's really easy. We just need to do 3 vines onto these little hooks on Spider Queen's abdomen thing, thorax, I don't know. And after that, we just need to use 2 Exum Slips, and that's enough.
Yeah, this fight is a significantly harder version of the original fight, where in the original fight, you need to use 2 vines. In this one, you need to use 3.
Yes, it's an insane difficulty.
Insane difficulty spike. Like, it's a 50% difficulty spike. That's a lot, you know?
Can I get it? No, I messed up. Damn it. All right. We'll try that again on the next warp. One thing is these warps here. They have a bit of a weird mechanic where after each fight, I'm trying to stand close to them, but not inside of them, because they don't appear until after the fight is over. And if you're inside of them when they appear, you actually will not be instantly warped. You have to leave it and then walk back into it. And so that's why I'm trying to align next to it, but not right at it.
Yeah, and coming up is Crimson Helm, which is pretty much the exact same concept as Spider Queen. We need to do something to make Crimson Helm vulnerable, and then he dies to Exorcism Slips.
Yep. And this is by far the easiest fight that's technically not just Exum Slipping, because instead of just Exum Slipping, we have to do 1 Exum Slip, Gale Storm, and then do 4 more. So it's totally different, you know? It's wildly different. I had to do a Gale Storm in there. Alright, let's see if I can get it this time. So one other thing with these warps is they have some little funny quirks with them, where they don't, like, it's not like a true cutscene in how it works, and so because of this, if I spin, I will actually end up tilted when I go into the warp, because it just takes whichever direction you are facing when you walk in. So that we just call that tilt, and it's just pretty funny.
So tilted.
Yeah, there's a couple other things you can do. You can get an extra bark. You can get a little hop. So a lot of funny little things you can do with them. We are also, when we're going to these fights, we're meeting these Celestials who are all like kind of already dead. And when we come out of the fight and talk to them again, they actually die. So, you know, it's all very sad. Anyway, we're here doing Ninetales again. Ninetales is practically unchanged. We're going to do the exact same strategy as last time. Bomb into immediate thunderstorm once Ninetales roars. And then once these spirits are out, we can kill them all with some Exum Slips. One thing to note about part of why Exum Slips are so powerful is that they do area of attack damage, or area of effect damage, right? They attack every single enemy on the field at the same time. And this is part of why they're so good. So for this fight, there's 4 different spirits on the field, but when I use an Exum Slip, I affect every single one of them. And so this is part of why Exum Slips are just so good in this game. The only difference in this fight compared to the original is that rather than 4, it only takes 2 Exum Slips to take down the final, the true Ninetales spirit there. And that's the end of the main boss rush. But we still have one more boss to go, and that is, of course, the final boss.
Now, we're casually, Yami is a super cool fight, conceptually, narratively, mechanically. In the speedrun, it's a bit
It's
of
a great
bore.
fight. It's one of the
Yeah.
greatest of all time, I would say. No,
Yeah,
it's going to be a little bit of an auto scroller, just how it is. It's what's fast. So
Yeah, it's
what we're
it's
gonna
just
do.
fastest to use our broken consumable. As you can see, we have 400 and like almost 420,000 yen. This gives us enough to buy an extra 41 large exorcism sleeves. The minimum amount of exorcism sleeves to kill Yami with using essentially only slips is 41. I believe we're gonna have 44. I didn't see properly before.
Something
Yeah,
like
we're gonna
that.
have
We
44.
have plenty.
Yeah.
We have plenty. 41 is what's required, so the bosses actually give you just the right amount of money to be able to take out Yami with just exorcism slips. We walk in with enough slips to take out all the bosses, and then they give us all the money to take down Yami. It works out very nicely for this
Yeah,
run.
it's actually pretty nice how you get basically just enough money from the bosses in order to take out Yami. It just works out perfectly. Now, the gimmick of this fight is that at the beginning, Yami takes away all of your brush powers. And Yami has 4 initial phases, each of which gives you back 3 of your brush powers back out of the 13, while at the end you discover that the power of Sunrise was within you all along and you didn't have to get it back from Yami and blah, blah, blah. It's actually pretty cool. I love it. But
I
yeah,
cry,
we're just gonna
but
exorcism sleep. Yeah, literally
didn't-
cry every
yeah.
time. Literally.
But sadly, Yami, well, Solar Brush Powers did not have the foresight to take our exorcism slips, so we are pretty much going to entirely take out Yami through exorcism slips. They're just really good. They're just really, really good.
So yeah, each of these, well, I'll save that for a bit later, actually. But yeah, this is where a tiny strat improvement came up, where we used to require 42 slips. Now we only require 41 because I believe it was Outright, or was it you, Lego?
I think
who
it
came
was,
up with
I wouldn't be surprised if both of us did.
Yeah. separately. But yeah, like there's this strat to just attack Yami because the first 2 phases of Yami are vulnerable to normal attacks. So this phase is actually easier to attack than the first one. It's more convenient. So we do this for 2 reasons. One is to skip 1 use of exorcism slips to make the fight go faster, and the other one is that there is a concept called godhood in this game where by comboing, like getting combo chains, you gain some invulnerability. So by comboing this phase of Yami, we can get invulnerability for the very final phase, like the 5th phase that comes after a cutscene and all, like the cutscene where everybody cries, where reset plays, and yeah, like if you don't cry, like if you tell me you never cried watching that, I will say you're 9 times out of 10 or 90 times out of 100 you're lying. I do believe some people might not cry, and that's perfectly valid, But yeah. Here's the last RNG part of the run, the slot machine. We actually require Yami to land on 3 phases, and oh wow! Perfect RNG, let's go, Lego. Insane luck. Yeah. Yeah, we need Yami to land on 3 of the evil hand slots in order to get our brush powers back. So let's hope Lego gets it an extra 2 times. Fingers crossed.
Oh my goodness!
For the
my
RNG.
goodness, got it.
Oh,
crazy,
my
crazy.
god! So lucky.
No.
Insane. Yeah. So the actual way it works is Yami has certain health thresholds where when Yami is below that, it will always give you the brush power back, right? So we just do 5 exorcism saves to put it past all of those thresholds and just get it every time. People like calling that rigging the slots because, it does. So, what I wanted to mention earlier is that each of Yami's phases represents one of humanity's desires. The first one represents the desire, like humanity's dark desires, of course, right? Because it's Yami, the Emperor of Eternal Darkness. So the first one represents the desire to destroy. The second one, the desire to consume. this past one, obviously the desire to gamble, and this fourth one, it's Lego. You can let it like actually show the actual face for a bit, so that
No.
people can see it. Okay. This one represents the desire to battle sick mechs. You know, it's very
We
important
get to
that
see
it
the
is
mech in the
represented.
cutscene for like half a second.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And yeah, this one actually has like, it's actually funny how some people vary the way they do the sleeps, because for this is one of the phases in particular where you can pretty much separate the amount of slips in like 3-2, like do 3 in one go, 2 in one go. But after a certain point, most people started doing like all at the beginning, like just front load all of them and just do one by one later. I think it was originally Kinnin who started doing that way back in the day. So we would call it the Kinnin method or something, but it kind of got lost in time.
There's your sick mech right here.
Yeah, look at it. Beautiful.
And now we have the final boss, the final phase of the final boss, and we will now be using, it's the final phase, so of course it now requires not 1, not 2, but 12 extra slips to take out. Yeah. It's a
and
lot.
time is coming up, not when the boss dies, but after skipping a couple of cutscenes after, on the result screen from Yami, where it shows up the yen from the results and it gives 2,000 yen and all that. Time comes up there.
So time's coming up in 3, 2, 1, now. And there we go. That is Okami. New game 80%. So that is actually a pretty good time. I'm very happy with that. Especially considering a little bit of time just for marathon safety. So, yeah. Big shout outs to the community. Great community. If you want to get into this, we have a Discord. And yeah, would love to have more people playing this game.
Yeah, we had a lot of resources for beginners. We tried to be very helpful, answer everyone's questions. Yeah, we're a very friendly community. I know people really say this, but I really, really mean this. Our community is very nice and welcoming. So if you're interested in trying this game, we really encourage you. We have some excellent resources. And yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be all for us. Thank you for watching, and make sure to donate.
Thank you for the lovely run, both of you. That was a super awesome time. I must say the music in the game was amazing.
Yeah, Okami's music is great.
It was just breathtaking to just listen to the music while you're playing through the game with the stellar commentary. So yeah, thank you again for doing the run, and stick around, folks. We got more to come.